Imagine this. You're in charge of an English colony on the Roanoke Island in present-day North Carolina. It's been 3 long years since your last supply ship arrived. Food is scarce, and many of your fellow settlers have already died. The surviving colonists are so desperate that they've begun to eat dogs for sustenance, but help is finally on the way. A rescue mission arrives to save what's left of the colony. But when they reach the shore, they find no people, just empty huts and a single tree with the word CROATOAN carved into it. Welcome to the strange and terrifying tale of the lost colony of Roanoke. This mysterious disappearance was one of the most puzzling mysteries of the 16th century, and it still continues to baffle historians to this day. But let's start at the beginning. The story of Roanoke begins in 1584, when the English Queen Elizabeth I granted a charter to Sir Walter Raleigh to establish settlements in North America. Raleigh named the territory Virginia in honor of the Virgin Queen. And 2 years later, the first English colony was established on Roanoke Island. The colony consisted of about 120 settlers, mostly men, with a few women and children. Their goal was simple: survive and make the colony self-sufficient. From the start, the settlers faced challenges. They struggled to grow crops in the unfamiliar climate, and they were attacked by the local Native Americans. To make matters worse, their first leader, Ralph Lane, was not suited for the task. He was an aristocrat who had little experience in the wilderness. He spent much of his time searching for gold and ignored the needs of the colony. By the time the supply ship arrived 3 years later, the colony had dwindled to just 50 starving survivors. But before we move on, make sure to hit that like button for more videos. It really helps us out. Thanks. As the supply ship pulled into the harbor, the starving colonists emerged from the woods to greet them. They had survived by eating dogs and other small animals. The settlers were overjoyed to see the ship, thinking that their ordeal was finally over. But their joy was short-lived. The ship had come from England under the orders of Sir Francis Drake, an English privateer who was known for his daring raids on Spanish ships. Drake had been hired by Raleigh to relieve the colony, but he had other plans. He refused to take the settlers back to England and instead forced them to join him on his voyage to plunder Spanish settlements in the Caribbean. The settlers were held captive on the ship for several months as Drake sailed the seas. When he finally landed them back on Roanoke, all but 50 of the colonists were dead due to disease and starvation. These 50 survivors would become known as the Lost Colony. With the colony in ruins, the remaining settlers began to despair. They were too few in number to create a self-sustaining community, and they had no choice but to rely on the ships from England for food and supplies. But the ships never came. The settlers were now on their own once again. The settlers split into 2 groups, one led by John White and the other by his brother-in-law, Governor John Dare. While White led the majority of the settlers inland, Dare maintained a small settlement near the coast. Dare hoped to use this settlement to trade with passing ships, but it was not an ideal location. The area was prone to flooding, and the settlers were constantly at risk of attack from the local Native Americans. To make matters worse, the settlers were plagued by disease and starvation. Food was scarce, and the colonists were forced to resort to eating shellfish and fish eggs to survive. By the end of 1590, the colony had dwindled to just 17 people. At this point, White realized that the colony could not survive on its own. He made the decision to send a group of settlers to England to plead for more supplies, but the group never returned. In fact, none of the settlers that left the colony ever returned. 1 year later, John White was able to board a ship to England to seek help. He left the colony in the hands of his brother-in-law, Governor John Dare, and his wife Eleanor. But when White returned 3 years later, he found that the colony was deserted. All that remained was a single tree with the word CROATOAN carved into it. So where did the settlers go? There are many theories, but no one knows for sure. There are three main theories that attempt to explain the disappearance of the lost colony. The first theory is that the settlers assimilated with the local Native American tribes. This theory is supported by the fact that the word CROATOAN, carved on the tree, is believed to be the name of a local Native American tribe. The CROATOAN Indians lived on the outer banks of North Carolina at the time the colony was established. They were known for their friendly relations with the colonists, and some members of the tribe even converted to Christianity. It's possible that the settlers, desperate for help, turned to the CROATOANs for assistance. The tribe may have welcomed them and helped them to survive, eventually assimilating them into their culture. This theory is also supported by the fact that no bones or other evidence of a massacre has ever been found. However, there is no direct evidence to support this theory. The second theory is that the settlers were victims of a secret massacre. This theory is supported by the fact that the colony was completely deserted when John White returned. All of the houses were empty, and there was no sign of a struggle. It's possible that the settlers were taken by surprise and murdered in their sleep. This theory is also supported by the fact that the nearby Native American tribes were known to be hostile. The CROATOAN tribe was known to be peaceful, but other tribes in the area were not. It's possible that one of these tribes attacked the colony and wiped out the entire settlement. However, there is no evidence of a massacre, and no one knows why the killer would have spared the children. The third and perhaps most bizarre theory is that the settlers simply vanished into thin air. This theory is supported by the fact that there is no evidence of foul play. The settlers may have boarded a ship and sailed away, or they may have decided to abandon the colony and travel to another settlement. However, this theory does not explain why the colony was abandoned in the middle of the night. Archaeologists continue to search for answers, and new discoveries are being made all the time. In recent years, archaeologists have uncovered several clues that may help to solve the mystery. For example, they've found evidence that the settlers lived among the CROATOAN tribe after leaving the colony. They've also found evidence that the tribe may have been wiped out by a disease brought over by the Europeans. These new discoveries have shed light on the possible fates of the lost colony. However, the mystery remains unsolved. The mystery of the lost colony has captivated people for centuries. It's been the subject of books, movies, and TV shows, and it continues to fascinate historians and amateur sleuths alike. Some believe that the settlers were killed by the Native Americans, while others believe that they simply vanished. The truth is, we may never know what really happened to the lost colony. What do you think happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the past, we often come across stories that have captivated people for centuries. One such story is that of Mary Celeste, a ship that was found abandoned at sea with its cargo of wine and its crew nowhere to be found. The mystery of the Mary Celeste has spawned countless theories, but to this day, no one knows what really happened to the crew. Another intriguing tale we've covered is that of Jack the Ripper, a serial killer who terrorized London's poor in the late 19th century. Despite numerous investigations, the true identity of Jack the Ripper remains a mystery. We've delved into the gruesome details of his crimes and the various theories surrounding his identity, from Prince Albert Victor to Montague John Deuce, exploring the evidence and the motives that have kept this case in the public's imagination for over a century. And then there's the Dyatlov Pass incident, a bizarre event that occurred in the northern Ural Mountains in 1959. When hikers were found dead under mysterious circumstances, the official Soviet investigation blamed an avalanche, but many have since questioned this conclusion. We examined the evidence, including the autopsy reports and witness testimonies, to piece together what really happened to the group, shedding light on the potential causes of their deaths, from military involvement to paranormal activity. Each of these cases offers a unique glimpse into the darker aspects of our history and the complexities of human behavior. Whether you're a true crime enthusiast, a history buff, or just someone who loves a good mystery, we invite you to join us as we continue to explore the most perplexing puzzles of the past.